Worked 3 jobs to pay her law school. She dumped me, then mom's secret made me rich. For 4 grueling years, my life was a relentless cycle. Construction by day, until my hands were raw and bloody even through my work gloves. Warehouse work at night, loading trucks until my back screamed for mercy. Food delivery on the weekends. I drove through rain, snow, whatever it took. Every exhausting hour was for one purpose: putting my fiancée, Bridget, through law school. The day she passed the bar exam, I thought we had finally made it. I genuinely believed all that sacrifice had been worth something. But that very night, Bridget looked me dead in the eyes across the restaurant table. Her new designer suit was perfectly pressed, her manicured nails tapping a rhythm of finality. She uttered the words that destroyed everything I had believed in. "Ryan, I need someone on my level now." This was never going to work long term. For years of my life, gone. Just like that. 3 months later, something unexpected happened. I was making a simple food delivery to a dying old woman, and that one moment changed everything. That delivery showed me exactly what my level truly was, and it was a height Bridget could never have reached. My name is Ryan Decker, and I'm about to tell you how losing the woman I thought I wanted led me to discover a legacy worth $40 million. An inheritance my mother left me before she died, giving birth to me. But more importantly, I'll tell you how I learned that some people only value you for what you can give them, while others will move heaven and earth to make sure you are taken care of, even if they never get to meet you. I was 32 years old, living in a cramped studio apartment with water stains blooming on the ceiling and a radiator that clanged all night. My whole life had been about survival, not living. My mother, Maria, died the day I was born due to complications no one had foreseen. My father, Harold, raised me alone, a mechanic with grease under his fingernails and pure love in his heart. He died in a car accident when I was 21, leaving me completely alone in the world. That's when Bridget Ashford came into my life. Beautiful, ambitious, with a perfect smile and a 5-year plan mapped out to the smallest detail. She was going to be a top lawyer, drive a BMW, and own a penthouse. And somehow, in all those plans, I believed I had a permanent place. "You're my foundation," she used to tell me in our tiny apartment, law books scattered everywhere. "I couldn't do this without you, Ryan." God help me, I believed every single word. So when she got into law school, I didn't hesitate. I dropped out of the community college where I'd been studying business management. I picked up the construction job with Brennan Construction, working for a foreman named Walter Henning, who barked orders from sunup to sundown. The Amazon warehouse job came next, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., just enough time to shower before heading back to construction. Weekends meant driving for quick bite delivery, zigzagging across the city with bags of food. My buddy Jerome Washington, who worked construction with me, watched me stumble onto the site every morning, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking. "Man, you're going to kill yourself for that girl." He'd shake his head as we laid foundation. "What's she doing for you while you're out here breaking your back?" "She's studying." I'd defend her. "When she becomes a lawyer, we'll both benefit. This is an investment in our future." Jerome would just look at me with pity. "If you say so, brother. Just remember, investments are supposed to pay dividends." Bridget never saw the worst of it. She never saw me throwing up from sheer exhaustion behind the construction site, or sleeping in my truck between jobs to save precious minutes of driving time. She never saw me counting out exact change for ramen noodles, because every spare dollar went to her textbooks, her test prep courses, her professional wardrobe. The night she got her bar exam results, I had it all planned. I traded shifts with 3 different drivers to get the evening off. I bought the nice kind of roses from an actual florist with my tip money, and splurged on a bottle of real champagne. She was having dinner with her law school friends at Vincenzo's, an Italian place where appetizers cost more than I made in a day. I surprised her, walking in with my cleanest shirt, the roses hidden behind my back. Her friend Penelope saw me first. I'll never forget how her face twisted, like she'd smelled something foul. "Oh," Penelope said loud enough for the whole table to hear. Asterisk asterisk, "the delivery boy is here asterisk asterisk." I should have seen it then. I should have seen the way Bridget's shoulders tensed, the way she didn't correct Penelope, the way she looked at her friends before finally looking at me. But I was too happy, too proud, too blind to see what was right in front of me. 3 months later, my life centered around that delivery to Eleanor Caulfield. She was 87 years old, confined to a hospice bed at Rosewood Gardens Senior Living, and she'd ordered the simplest thing: chicken soup and saltine crackers, the kind of order that barely covers the delivery fee, the kind I'd normally be annoyed about. But that night, that order, that dying old woman who gasped when she saw my name tag, who asked if I was Maria's son, who started crying and begged me to sit down because she had something my mother had left with her 35 years ago, that changed everything. That showed me what real love looks like, what real sacrifice means, and what it truly means to be on a level that some people can only dream of reaching. This is that story. My life with Bridget had a rhythm to it, predictable and mechanical. Every morning at 4 a.m., I'd slip out of bed, my body protesting. I'd make her breakfast, scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast, and coffee in her Yale Law mug, leaving it on the counter with a note. Crushing it today, beautiful. Love R**. By 4:45 a.m., I was driving to the construction site. Walter Henning, my foreman, was 63 and built like a brick house, but he had a soft spot for me. "Decker, you look like death warmed over," he'd shout. "When's the last time you got 8 hours? Sleep is for people without goals, Walter," I'd reply, grabbing my hard hat. "Goals or a death wish," he'd mutter, but he always gave me the overtime shifts when I asked. The work was brutal but honest. We were building a new children's hospital, and sometimes I'd focus on the kids who would get better there as my hands bled into my gloves. My partner, Jerome, would work beside me, sharing stories about his wife and 2 kids. "Shanice packed extra sandwiches again," he'd say at lunch, pushing half his food toward me. "She says you're too skinny for construction." I was too proud to tell him that his wife's sandwiches were sometimes the only real meal I'd eat all day. At 6 p.m., while the others headed to the bar, I drove straight to the Amazon warehouse for my 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. The supervisor, a former Marine named Marcus Webb, ran the night crew like a military operation. He respected hard work and never asked about the concrete dust still in my hair. Our apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up, 700 square feet that cost too much because it was close to Bridget's law school. The thin walls let us hear everything, but Bridget had transformed it into her study sanctuary. Law books dominated every surface. She color-coded everything with expensive highlighters, and post-it notes covered the fridge with Latin legal terms I couldn't pronounce. The living room became her mock courtroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," she'd say, pacing in her pajamas, "my client has been wrongfully accused." She was magnificent when she practiced, all fire and passion. I'd watch her and think, "This is why I'm doing this. This brilliant woman is going to change the world, and I get to be part of that journey." Bridget came from middle-class comfort in Connecticut. Her parents helped with her undergrad, but law school was supposed to be her own achievement. "I want to earn this myself," she told me early on. What she really meant was, she wanted me to prove she could do it. I'd met her at a coffee shop near my community college before Dad died. She was highlighting a textbook with such intensity that she tore the page. I offered her my unopened highlighter. "My hero," she'd smiled, and I was gone. My father, Harold, had been my whole world after Mom died. "Your mother was it for me," he'd say. "Some people get one great love, and Maria was mine." He worked at Polson's Auto Repair for 20 years. We lived in a leaky 2-bedroom rental, but it was home. He taught me about hard work and taking care of the people you love. "Your mother would be so proud of you," he'd say. "She was smart like you, always reading, always dreaming about making things better." He never told me she came from money, never mentioned the Blackwood family fortune, or the inheritance that was waiting for me. Maybe he thought protecting me from that knowledge was love. When Dad died, I was 21 and completely unprepared. Funeral costs wiped out his savings and my college fund. Bridget stood beside me at the cemetery, holding my hand. "I'm here," she whispered. "You're not alone anymore." For 4 years, I believed that promise. I structured my entire existence around her success. When she studied late, I made fresh coffee. When she stressed, I massaged her shoulders and told her she was brilliant. Her study group, trust fund kids like Preston, Gabriella, and Thaddeus, would meet at our place, complaining about summer houses while I served them snacks bought with my overtime pay. What about you, Ryan? Gabriella once asked, her voice dripping with false interest. What are your plans after Bridget passes the bar? He's exploring his options, Bridget answered quickly. Ryan's very entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial. Her code word for unemployable in her new world. I had dreams once of opening my own auto repair shop, Harold's Haven. Those dreams got buried with Dad, replaced by the singular focus of getting Bridget through law school. That was my life. Construction, warehouse, delivery, repeat. 7 days a week, for years straight, all leading to that moment in Vincenzo's restaurant. The bar exam results came on a rainy Tuesday in September. I was laying concrete foundation when Bridget texted. Asterisk, results are in. I passed. Asterisk followed by champagne bottle emojis. I hooped out loud. Walter Henning even cracked a smile. Take the rest of the day off, Decker. Paid. You've earned it. I drove straight to the fancy wine shop and spent $200 on French champagne. Money I'd saved by skipping lunches for 2 months. I showered, put on my one good shirt, and bought $60 worth of roses. At Vincenzo's, I walked in, my heart pounding with pride. Penelope's disgusted comment, "The delivery boy is here," froze the room. Bridget's face cycled through surprise, embarrassment, and resignation. "Ryan," she said, not getting up. "I didn't know you were coming. I wanted to surprise you," I said, holding out the roses. "Congratulations, baby. You did it." She took the roses like they were contaminated, setting them quickly on an empty chair. I stood there, holding the champagne, feeling like a child who'd wandered into an adult party. "We should talk," Bridget said suddenly, standing up. She led me out to the parking lot. The valet attendants watched us pass. In the glow of the expensive lights, she turned to face me, crossing her arms. "Ryan, we need to discuss our future." "I know things will change now," I started, trying to sound supportive. "You'll be working long hours, but we can make it work. I can finally go back to school." She actually laughed, a cold, cutting sound. "Ryan, look at yourself. Look at us. Do you really think this was ever going to work long term?" The words didn't make sense. "What are you talking about? We're getting married. We have plans." "No, Ryan. You had plans. I had necessities." The champagne bottle suddenly felt impossibly heavy. "Necessities?" She sighed like I was a slow student. "I needed support through law school. You provided that, and I'm grateful. But I'm entering a different world now. Partners at law firms don't have husbands who deliver food. Associates don't bring construction workers to firm galas. It's not personal. It's practical." "For years," my voice cracked. "I worked 3 jobs for 4 years. And that was your choice," she replied, cool as the night air. "I never forced you to do that. You said you loved me. You said I was your foundation." "Foundations get built over, Ryan. That's what they're for." She pulled off the engagement ring, the one I'd saved 2 years to buy. "Keep it," she said, pressing it into my palm. "Maybe you can get something nice for yourself." Then she turned and walked back toward the restaurant. At the door, she paused and looked back one last time. "I need someone on my level now, Ryan. Surely you can understand that." The door closed with a soft whoosh. I stood alone, holding the champagne I couldn't afford and the ring she didn't want. 3 spots away from my beat-up truck sat her new BMW, bought with her signing bonus. The contrast said everything. I drove home in silence and found she'd already been there. Half the closet was empty. The law books were gone. She'd only taken what was hers, what had value in her new world. On the counter she'd left a note. Asterisk, the lease is paid through the end of the month. Good luck, Ryan. Asterisk. Good luck. For years of my life, and all I got was good luck. I sat on our couch and drank that $200 champagne straight from the bottle. Alone. Toasting the fool who thought love meant sacrifice. 3 months after Bridget left, I was a ghost. I'd moved into a studio above a Chinese restaurant on Belmont Street. The rent was cheap, and it showed. The radiator clanged, the window faced a brick wall, and the faucet dripped constantly. But it was mine. I'd quit the warehouse and dropped most of my construction shifts. Don't let that woman ruin you. Walter Henning had pleaded. I'm just tired, Walter. Bone deep tired. I kept the delivery job. It required the least from me. Just driving, following the GPS, dropping off food to people who barely looked at me. It was perfect. No thinking, no feeling, just existing. Hector Ramirez, my supervisor at Quick Bite Delivery, noticed the change in me right away. Hector was 5 feet 4 inches of pure energy and paternal concern. A former boxer who had traded the ring for managing drivers and raising 3 daughters. You used to smile, Hermano, he said one evening as I picked up my orders. Now you look like you're attending your own funeral. Some days it feels like I am, I admitted, grabbing the insulated bags. You know what you need? You need to remember who you were before her. Find that guy again. But I couldn't remember who that was. Had I ever been anyone without someone else to take care of? First, Dad needed me after Mom died. Then after Dad died, Bridget needed me. Or so I thought. Now with no one to sacrifice for, I felt adrift. That Tuesday night in December, the order came through. 1 chicken soup and 1 pack of saltine crackers, delivering to Rosewood Gardens Senior Living, Room 247, Hospice Wing. The name was Eleanor Caulfield. I almost declined it. Rosewood Gardens was a 30-minute drive across town, and the order total was barely $8. The tip would be minimal, if anything, but something made me accept it. Maybe it was the hospice designation. Maybe it was knowing someone was dying and just wanted hot soup. Rosewood Gardens was beautiful in that expensive, polished way. Manicured lawns, a circular driveway with a fountain that cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. The hospice wing was quieter, separate. The receptionist, a kind young woman named Bethany, gave me a sad smile. Room 247, she said softly. She's very ill, I'm afraid. If she's sleeping, just leave it. She rarely eats, but she insists on ordering soup every few days. I think she just wants to feel normal, you know? I nodded and walked down the hushed hallway. Room 247 was at the end. I knocked gently and heard a weak but clear voice say, "Come in." Eleanor Caulfield was propped up in a hospital bed that seemed to swallow her tiny frame. She couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds. Her white hair was thin but neat, and she wore a lavender bed jacket. But her eyes, sharp, bright blue, and fully alert despite the morphine drip, were what held me. "Dinner delivery," I said, trying to sound cheerful. 1 chicken soup and crackers. I set the bag on her nightstand and turned to leave, but she was staring at me with an intensity that made me freeze. Her eyes went wide, and her thin hand flew to her mouth. "Wait," she said, her voice suddenly stronger. "Your name tag? What's your name?" "Ryan. Ryan Decker." The change in her was immediate and dramatic. Tears welled up and spilled down her papery cheeks. Her body began to tremble. "Are you Maria's son?" she gasped. "Maria Decker?" The sound of my mother's name from a stranger's lips made me freeze. Even my dad had struggled to talk about her. "Maria was my mother," I said slowly. "But she died when I was born." "Did you know her?" Eleanor began sobbing in earnest now, reaching out toward me. "Oh, my dear boy, sit down. Please, you must sit down. I've been looking for you for 35 years. I sank into the visitor's chair, my heart hammering. Looking for me? Why? I was her nurse, Eleanor said, clutching tissues. Eleanor Caulfield, though I was Eleanor Brennan back then. I was young, just 25, working labor and delivery at St. Mary's Hospital. Your mother. She knew something was wrong. The doctor kept saying everything was fine, but Maria knew. I helped her take a sip of water. She continued, her voice urgent, as if she were afraid she'd run out of time. 2 days before you were born, Maria pulled me aside. She was so beautiful, your mother, with thick, dark hair and these green eyes that seemed to see right through you. She pressed an envelope into my hands and made me swear on everything holy that if anything happened to her, I would keep it safe until you were old enough to understand. What kind of envelope? My voice came out strangled. Legal documents, a letter, and this. Eleanor fumbled in her nightstand drawer until she pulled out a small safety deposit box key on a chain. She said you needed to be at least 30 before you'd understand. You're 32 now, aren't you? How did you know that? Because I kept track of when you were born. December 18, 1992, at 3:47 a.m. I was there, Ryan. I held you when you took your first breath while your mother took her last. The room spun. This woman had witnessed the terrible trade-off that defined my entire life. Your father, Harold, he was destroyed, Eleanor continued. He held you and sobbed. Then he disappeared. He left the hospital and never came back. I tried to find you both for years. I hired private investigators. I searched social media endlessly. Nothing. Dad was protecting me, I said, understanding washing over me. From something or someone. Eleanor nodded. From your mother's family, the Blackwoods, but also from this. She held up the envelope. Ryan, your mother wasn't just some young woman. She was an heiress. And she left you everything. I stared at the envelope, unable to process the words. I don't understand. Sit back, dear boy. Eleanor said, gentle but firm. There's so much you need to know about who your mother really was, and why she made the choices she did. But first, you need to understand that everything she did, including the contents of this envelope, she did out of a love so powerful that even death couldn't stop her from taking care of you. Eleanor reached into her drawer, pulling out a manila envelope that had yellowed with age. She placed it in my hands as if passing me something sacred. Your mother was Maria Blackwood before she became Maria Decker, Eleanor began. The Blackwood family owns half the commercial real estate in New England. Shopping centers, office buildings, entire city blocks. Old money, the kind that traces back to railroad barons. That's impossible, I whispered. Dad worked in an auto shop. We lived paycheck to paycheck. Because your father loved your mother enough to let her choose love over money, Eleanor countered. Harold was working at the Blackwood estate as a mechanic, taking care of their vintage car collection. Maria, then 22, had just returned from college. They fell in love. And when Charles and Victoria Blackwood found out their daughter was dating the help, they gave her an ultimatum. She could have her inheritance, her trust fund, her place in society, or she could have Harold. She couldn't have both. Your mother walked out of that mansion with nothing but the clothes on her back and never looked back. But you said she left me everything, I said, confused. Eleanor smiled, a secret smile. Maria was smarter than her parents knew. Her grandmother, Isabel Blackwood, had left Maria a separate trust, completely independent of the family money. It was set to mature when Maria turned 35. Charles and Victoria couldn't touch it. Maria knew, but she never told them. I finally opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside were legal documents, bank papers, and a handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. Read the letter first, Eleanor urged. The rest will make sense after. I unfolded the letter, my mother's careful cursive flowing across the page. My dearest Ryan. Asterisk if you're reading this. It means I didn't survive to hold you, to watch you grow, to be the mother I desperately wanted to be. I'm writing this 2 days before your birth, and somehow I know I won't make it through. But I need you to know that you are not responsible for my death. You are the greatest gift I could ever give this world. Asterisk. Asterisk your father doesn't know what I'm about to tell you, and he may be angry that I've kept this secret. But I wanted us to build a life based on love, not money. My grandmother, Isabel, left me a trust fund worth $8 million, to be available when I turn 35. Since I won't reach that age, I've arranged to have it transferred to you. To mature when you turn 33. The trusted executor is Arthur Caulfield, the husband of the wonderful nurse who promised to deliver this to you. They are good people, Ryan. You can trust them. Asterisk. Asterisk, but there's more. I've been investing secretly using money I saved from tutoring and selling my jewelry. I bought shares in technology companies that everyone says will change the world. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. They're all in a separate portfolio, also in your name. I pray they'll give you the freedom I want you to have. Asterisk. Asterisk my parents are cold people who believe money makes them superior. They told me I would regret choosing love over security. They were wrong. The only thing I regret is that I won't see you become the man I know you'll be. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not enough, my darling boy. You are the son of Harold Decker, the best man I ever knew, and Maria Blackwood Decker, who loved you enough to ensure you'd never have to sacrifice your dreams for anyone who doesn't deserve them. Asterisk. Asterisk. Use this money to live freely. You were worth everything to me. I would make the same choice 1,000 times over. Asterisk. All my love, Mom. I couldn't see the letter anymore through my tears. Eleanor reached over and took my hand. There's more, she whispered. Look at the portfolio statement. I pulled out the document dated just last month. My eyes couldn't process the numbers. The original $8 million from my grandmother's trust, plus the invested money my mother had secretly saved, plus 40 years of compound interest and stock growth. The Apple shares alone were worth millions. Asterisk asterisk $43 million asterisk asterisk, Eleanor said quietly. The current value is $43 million. Ryan, your mother turned $8 million into $43 million because Arthur, my late husband, was a brilliant financial advisor who treated your mother's trust like his own child. The lawyers at Morrison, Cranky, and Associates have been managing it since, waiting for you to claim it. The room was tilting. I thought about Bridget's words. I need someone on my level now. She had no idea what level I was actually on. The irony was devastating. Why didn't my father tell me? I asked, my voice hollow. Eleanor squeezed my hand. I think Harold was protecting you from the pain of rejection. The Blackwoods had hurt Maria so deeply. He wanted you to know you were loved for who you are, not what you might inherit. I looked at the dying woman who had kept this sacred promise for 35 years. Eleanor, why did you keep looking for me? Her eyes filled with fresh tears. Because I held your mother's hand as she died, Ryan. And with her last breath, she made me promise you would know you were loved. I couldn't meet my own end without fulfilling it. The safety deposit box key glittered in the afternoon light. This is for the box at First National Bank. Your mother's jewelry is there, including her engagement ring from your father. She wanted you to have it for when you found someone who loved you for exactly who you are. I took the key, feeling the weight of decades of secrets. The poor delivery driver, who wasn't good enough for a newly minted lawyer, was actually worth more than Bridget's entire law firm. The man who wasn't on her level could buy the building her office was in. Your mother also left you something else in that box, Eleanor murmured. Photos of her and your father, their wedding album. She wanted you to see how happy they were. I sat in my truck outside Rosewood Gardens for 2 hours, unable to drive, unable to process that my entire life had been built on a foundation I never knew existed. The next morning, I walked into First National Bank wearing the same jeans and work shirt I'd worn to deliver soup. The bank manager's demeanor changed instantly when I showed him the key and the legal documents. Suddenly, I was Mr. Decker, sir, ushered into a private viewing room. Inside the box was my mother's simple solitaire engagement ring from my father, their wedding album, and a photo of my mother pregnant with me, smiling at the camera with a note on the back. You're already so loved, little one. There was her jewelry, each piece with a note explaining its history. The lawyers at Morrison, Cranky, and Associates, the same firm where Bridget worked, treated me like royalty. Mr. Decker, we've been waiting for you for a very long time. The senior partner, William Morrison, shook my hand. The first thing I did with my wealth was ensure Eleanor Caulfield had the best care money could buy. I hired private nurses, brought in specialists, and visited her every evening after my delivery shifts, which I kept working because I wasn't ready for my life to change completely yet. You kept a promise to my mother for 35 years. I told her when she protested the luxury suite I moved her to. This is nothing compared to that. Eleanor lived 3 more weeks. I was there when she passed, holding her hand like she had held my mother's. Her last words were, "Tell Maria I kept my promise." After her funeral, I sat down to decide my future. The money felt surreal, like numbers on a screen. I didn't seek revenge on Bridget. When she found out through office gossip about my inheritance, she tried calling, 17 missed calls in one day. I blocked her number without responding. Then I did something better. I bought the building where Patterson, Cranky, and Associates had their offices. Not to evict them, but just to own it. To know that every month Bridget's firm paid rent to the man she said wasn't on her level. But that wasn't truly satisfying. What was satisfying was what came next. I kept working my delivery job, But I started a nonprofit called Maria's Table, providing free meal delivery to elderly people in hospice care. I hired drivers and paid them $30 an hour with full benefits and retirement plans. Jerome from the construction crew was my first hire. Walter Henning even came out of retirement to help me run the operations side. I met with Charles and Victoria Blackwood once. They were old, frail, and swimming in regret. "You look just like her," Victoria wept. "She wasn't yours," I told them quietly. "She was Harold Decker's wife. You threw her away because she chose love over your money. Turns out she didn't need your money anyway." I forgave them, but forgiveness didn't mean relationship. I send them a Christmas card each year with a photo of Maria's Table delivering meals, a reminder that their daughter's legacy is kindness. 6 months after Eleanor died, I ran into Bethany, the kind nurse from Rosewood Gardens, at a new facility. We had coffee, then dinner, then more coffee. She didn't care about my money. She cared that I still delivered meals personally every week, that I knew my drivers' kids' names. "You could do anything," she said one evening. "Why this?" "Because my mother chose love over money and never regretted it," I said. "Because my father chose dignity over disclosure. Because Eleanor chose loyalty over 35 years of searching. Everyone who really loved me chose something harder than money. So now I choose to use money to make love easier for others." Bridget still works at the firm. I hear she's dating a hedge fund manager now, someone on her level. I hope she's happy. I really do, because she did me a favor. If she hadn't left me for not being enough, I'd never have discovered that I was already everything. My name is Ryan Decker. I have $43 million in the bank and callous hands that I'm proud of. I was told I wasn't on someone's level, and they were right. I was never on their level. I was above it all along. Real worth is measured in promises kept, love given freely, and the integrity to remain yourself when the world tells you you're not enough. My mother knew that. Eleanor knew that. And now, finally, so do I. The fortune wasn't about the money. It was about the freedom to choose who to love, how to live, and what to value. She gave me the one thing her parents never gave her. The absolute certainty that I was enough exactly as I am. And that's worth more than $43 million. That's worth everything.